She was the queen of disco, a five-time Grammy winner whose voice made the whole world dance. But behind the fame, the tours, and the dazzling lights, Donna Summer was also a mother of four. When she passed away in 2012, millions mourned the legend. But another question remained. What became of the children she left behind? Did they follow her footsteps into music? Did they choose ordinary lives, or did they face tragedies of their own? Number 1. Mimi Summer. Mimi Summer, born in 1973, was the first child of Donna Summer from her brief marriage to Austrian actor Helmut Summer. Her very name carried history. It was through Mimi that Donna took the surname Summer, later slightly anglicized to Summer, and turned it into a brand that would echo around the world. In a way, Mimi was there at the beginning of the legend, even before the rest of the world crowned Donna the Queen of Disco. Mimi's early years were anything but ordinary. She grew up partly in Europe, partly in the United States, moving between tour schedules, recording studios, and glamorous parties. Unlike most children, her earliest memories were framed not by playgrounds and schoolyards, but by concert arenas and flashing cameras. At only 7 years old, she appeared with her mother in the Donna Summer Special, 1980. To millions of viewers, it was a touching picture, the superstar and her bright-eyed daughter singing side by side. Fans assumed that this little girl, already comfortable in front of cameras, would one day carry the torch of her mother's fame. But behind the polished television special, life was not so easy. Mimi grew up with the challenges of having a global icon as a mother. Donna Summer's fame, while dazzling to the outside world, also meant long absences, endless travel, and the constant intrusion of the press. For a child, the red carpets and hotel rooms were less glamorous than they looked. Mimi often felt the quiet loneliness of a childhood where the spotlight always pointed to her mother, never to her. Still, Mimi admired Donna deeply. She saw not only the glamorous singer adored by millions, but also the fragile woman behind the sequins. A mother who worked tirelessly, who struggled with faith, relationships, and the pressures of stardom. Those contradictions left an imprint on Mimi. She loved the stage, but she also craved the simplicity her mother rarely had. As Mimi entered adulthood, she faced a choice: follow the path laid out before her, or step away. Unlike Brooklyn and Amanda, who would later embrace music and acting, Mimi chose something different. In 1995, she married Rick Doller, and together they built a life centered on family rather than fame. She became a mother to 2 children, dedicating herself to the kind of steady, private life she had longed for as a child. For years, she stayed far away from the public eye. Her appearances were rare, her name scarcely mentioned in Hollywood circles. But in May 2012, tragedy struck in the cruelest way. Donna Summer, after a private battle with lung cancer, passed away at the age of 63. For the world, it was the loss of a legend. For Mimi, it was the shattering loss of a mother. As the firstborn, she carried that grief heavily. At the funeral, Mimi and her sisters sang together, not as professional performers, but as daughters mourning the woman who had given them life and love. It was one of the few times Mimi stood in the public spotlight, her voice trembling not with ambition, but with sorrow. That moment captured her essence. Someone who lived quietly in the background, but who stepped forward when it mattered most. In the years since, Mimi has remained largely private. She occasionally appears at tribute concerts or memorials for her mother, standing alongside her sisters Brooklyn and Amanda. But unlike them, she has never pursued a career in entertainment. Instead, she has dedicated herself to her husband, her children, and a life of stability away from flashing cameras. To some, it may seem uneventful. To Mimi, it is precisely the life she wanted, one not defined by fame, but by love, resilience, and memory. Her story is less about chart-topping success and more about survival. She was the child who gave Donna her famous name, the little girl who grew up under disco's brightest lights, but who ultimately chose to turn away from the stage. She embraced privacy over applause, motherhood over microphones. And yet, in her own quiet way, Mimi has honored Donna Summer's legacy just as deeply as her more public sisters. For her, the greatest tribute was not in replicating Donna's career, but in ensuring that her children grew up with the stability she herself had missed. Mimi Summer's life is a reminder that not all children of stars seek the same destiny. Some step into the spotlight. Others, like Mimi, step away from it, carrying the memory of their parents not in performances, but in the lives they build, the families they nurture, and the strength they show when tragedy strikes. Number 2. Brooklyn Sudano. Brooklyn Sudano, born January 5, 1981, was Donna Summer's second daughter and the first child from her long marriage to songwriter Bruce Sudano. Unlike her older half-sister Mimi, who spent much of her childhood in the shadows of the stage, Brooklyn grew up in a house where music and creativity weren't just a profession, they were everyday life. Her very name, Brooklyn, reflected something grounded, urban, and artistic, a reminder of her parents' love for both music and the world beyond Hollywood. Growing up, she often accompanied Donna on tours, watching from backstage as thousands of fans danced to Hot Stuff and Last Dance. For many children, this would have been overwhelming, but for Brooklyn, it was a kind of schooling, one that taught her the beauty and the cost of fame. Brooklyn was bright, athletic, and ambitious. She excelled in school and early on showed a talent for both music and performance. But she also saw firsthand the struggles her mother faced. The endless travel, the pressure to remain perfect in front of the cameras, and the loneliness that often came with superstardom. Donna, determined to give her daughters a more stable childhood, kept the family grounded in Nashville for a time, away from Los Angeles' harsh spotlight. By her late teens, Brooklyn was already turning heads as a model, signing with Ford Modeling Agency and appearing in campaigns for brands like Clairol, Gucci, and Clean and Clear. For a while, it seemed like she might follow the fashion path, but her heart kept pulling her toward acting. She enrolled at Vanderbilt University, then continued training in New York and Los Angeles, where she studied with acclaimed acting coaches. Her breakthrough came in the early 2000s with television roles that introduced her to a wider audience. Brooklyn is best remembered for her role as Vanessa Scott, the smart and stylish wife in the hit sitcom My Wife and Kids, 2003 to 2005. The show brought her visibility and proved she had both comedic timing and screen presence. Later, she appeared in Taken, the series, 2017, and in the thriller Cruel Summer, 2021, earning praise for her ability to balance vulnerability and strength. With each role, Brooklyn carved out her own identity, far from being just Donna Summer's daughter. Yet the path was never simple. Like many second-generation children of celebrities, Brooklyn faced constant comparisons. Casting directors, journalists, even fans often asked whether she would pursue music like her mother. That shadow was impossible to escape. The Queen of Disco was an icon, after all. Brooklyn admitted in interviews that her mother's fame was both a blessing and a burden. Doors opened quickly, but expectations were crushing. The hardest blow came in 2012 when Donna Summer passed away from cancer. For Brooklyn, the loss was devastating. She had been especially close to her mother, not only as a daughter, but also as a creative spirit who admired Donna's discipline and artistry. At the funeral, Brooklyn stood alongside her sisters, offering music and words to honor the woman who had shaped their lives. In private, the grief was heavier, the sudden void of a mother who had always been both mentor and anchor. But Brooklyn turned her pain into purpose. Rather than retreating, she pressed forward in her career, determined to honor her mother's legacy by living authentically. Her performances grew deeper, her characters more layered, perhaps reflecting the emotional weight she carried. She also began speaking openly about faith, resilience, and family, themes that had always defined Donna Summer's life. Away from the screen, Brooklyn has built a steady personal life. She married Mike McLaughlin, and together they have a daughter. Motherhood, she often says, gave her a new perspective, one that makes her appreciate even more the sacrifices Donna made while raising 4 children at the height of global fame. Number 3. Amanda Sudano. Amanda Grace. Sudano, born August 29, 1982, was the youngest daughter of Donna Summer and Bruce Sudano, and perhaps the one who inherited her mother's deepest artistic soul. Where her sister Brooklyn leaned toward acting, Amanda was drawn to music, as if her mother's voice had planted a seed inside her. Growing up in Los Angeles and later Nashville, Amanda lived in a home filled with melodies. Mornings might start with Bruce strumming his guitar, afternoons with Donna working on lyrics, and evenings with the whole family gathered around a piano. For Amanda, music was not just entertainment. It was the language of the household. She once said that she learned harmony before she learned multiplication. Yet childhood under the shadow of the Queen of Disco was never simple. While friends at school could blend into anonymity, Amanda often found herself labeled before she even introduced herself. Donna Summer's daughter. At times, the weight of expectation was crushing. Teachers, classmates, and even strangers would ask, "Do you sing like your mother?" For a shy girl still finding her voice, it was both flattering and intimidating. By her late teens, Amanda began to step into the public eye. Modeling gave her an initial platform, and she appeared in Vogue and other magazines. But music was always tugging at her heart. She started writing songs, blending folk, soul, and pop into something entirely her own. In the early 2000s, her life changed when she met Abner Ramirez, a singer-songwriter from Florida. Their connection was instant, both romantic and creative. Soon after, they formed the duo Johnny Swim. Johnny Swim quickly gained a reputation for their heartfelt performances, mixing Amanda's smoky, emotional vocals with Abner's passionate songwriting. Their chemistry on stage mirrored their partnership in life. Songs like Home and Diamonds resonated with audiences who saw in them not just musicians but storytellers who wore their hearts openly. By the 2010s, Johnny Swim had built a loyal fan base, toured internationally, and even landed a Netflix series, Home on the Road. But Amanda's success was always tinged with bittersweet undertones. In 2012, as Johnny Swim was rising, her mother, Donna Summer, passed away after a private battle with lung cancer. For Amanda, the loss was devastating. Donna had been more than a mother. She was her model of artistry, faith, and perseverance. At the funeral, Amanda sang with her sisters, their voices breaking but strong, offering one final harmony for the woman who had taught them how to sing. Her grief found its way into her music. Many of Johnny Swim's songs carry undertones of longing, resilience, and faith in the face of loss. Fans often note that Amanda's voice seems to carry echoes of Donna, not an imitation, but an emotional honesty that reminds listeners of the Queen of Disco's ability to connect deeply with her audience. Away from the stage, Amanda has built a full life with Abner. They married in 2009 and are now parents to 3 children. For Amanda, balancing motherhood with touring and recording has been both exhausting and rewarding. She often speaks about the challenge of raising children on the road, yet insists that family is the anchor of everything she does. In this way, she mirrors her mother's struggle, trying to balance global fame with the quiet responsibilities of home. Amanda has also been candid about the pressures of being Donna Summer's daughter. She acknowledges the comparisons but insists on carving her own path. While Donna was disco's reigning queen, Amanda has chosen a different lane, folk pop infused with intimacy and spirituality. Number 4. Natalia Pia Melanie Sudano. Natalia Pia Melanie Sudano, born in January 1989, was the youngest daughter of Donna Summer and Bruce Sudano, the baby of the family. By the time Natalia arrived, her mother was no longer just the queen of disco, but a global icon whose voice had defined an era. For Natalia, this meant growing up in a household where fame, creativity, and public attention were ever present. But unlike her sisters Mimi, Brooklyn, and Amanda, she has lived much of her life outside the spotlight, carefully guarding her privacy. As a child, Natalia experienced the contradictions of being born into celebrity. On the one hand, her childhood was surrounded by music, artists, and international travel, a world far different from her peers. On the other, her parents made a conscious effort to shield her from the harsher glare of fame. By the late 1980s, Donna Summer had learned the cost of global stardom and wanted her youngest child to have a chance at a more grounded upbringing. Natalia often appeared at family gatherings, school activities, and church events rather than red carpets or television specials. Her siblings sometimes spoke of her as the most reserved of the four, someone who cherished privacy and preferred observing from the edges rather than stepping into center stage. While Mimi had an early brush with performance, Brooklyn found her place in acting, and Amanda in music, Natalia charted a different course, a quieter life, one far away from Hollywood. Still, no member of the family could completely escape the shadow of Donna Summer. For Natalia, adolescence coincided with her mother's later career years, still touring, still beloved, but also battling health struggles in private. Natalia remained close to Donna, often described as the most protected daughter, someone her mother worried about because of her gentle, sensitive nature. The most devastating moment of her life came in May 2012, when Donna Summer died of lung cancer at just 63. Natalia was only 23 years old, still at an age when many rely heavily on a mother's guidance. The loss was a crushing blow. At the funeral in Nashville, Natalia stood alongside her sisters, mourning not just a superstar, but the woman who had been her anchor. Unlike Brooklyn or Amanda, who used music and acting as outlets for their grief, Natalia retreated further from public view. She rarely gave interviews, avoided the press, and has kept her personal life almost entirely private. To this day, little is publicly known about her career or pursuits. Some reports suggest she focused on education and creative projects away from the limelight, while others say she chose a family-centered life. Whatever the specifics, Natalia has deliberately resisted the pull of fame, an act of quiet rebellion in a dynasty built on performance. Her occasional appearances are usually tied to family events, tributes to Donna Summer, reunions with her sisters, or charitable causes linked to her parents. When she does step forward, her presence is described as warm and deeply emotional, a reminder that even in silence, she carries her mother's legacy with dignity. Fans who have seen her at tribute concerts note her resemblance to Donna, both in looks and quiet grace, though Natalia has never sought to turn that inheritance into a career. Natalia's life highlights a different side of being the child of a legend. Fame can be seductive, but it can also be suffocating. Where her sisters chose visibility in acting and music, she chose peace, a life measured not in records sold or screen credits, but in moments of privacy, family, and endurance. Today, at 35, Natalia Pia Melanie Sudano continues to live privately, occasionally surfacing at family milestones, but largely content to remain unseen. Her story may lack the drama of stardom, but it carries its own kind of courage, the refusal to let the world write her script. She honors Donna Summer not through headlines, but through resilience, love, and the simple act of living authentically. Donna Summer made the whole world dance, but behind the disco lights, her 4 children each carried her love in very different ways. Mimi in family and privacy, Brooklyn on screen, Amanda in music, and Natalia in quiet resilience. If their story touched you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell, so you won't miss the next journey into the lives behind the legends.